I got to share that sometimes when I have a guest on the air, that some of the best discussion takes place off air, and that is the case today with our following guest, State Representative and soon to be State Senator Christy Zito, joining us this morning. And I asked her to join us on short notice today because something called the Southern Poverty Law Center has issued, well, it's a hit list. I can't put it any other way. What they've done is they've written a story and posted it at the SPLC website and targeted several people who got elected either to Congress or to state legislatures in the course of the last week. And they cite some people, candidate in Georgia, a couple of candidates in some other states, and they don't like Greg Gianforte, the new governor, the upcoming governor of Montana, because he punched a reporter one time after the reporter got in his face. And yet half the names, it seems, in this story are Idaho state legislators or legislators to be, or people who ran for Idaho legislature this year, and Christie's name is there. And it caught me a little bit by surprise because I've known her at least a dozen years, and she's not what you'd call a violent person, and I've never seen her haul off and smack anybody with a baseball bat yet. 7 minutes now after 9 o'clock, Bill Colley 2 on News Radio 1310. KLIX and newsradio1310.com. We're at 32. Christy, I have a ball bat here in the studio. I could loan it to you, I suppose, but it's not really your way.
Oh, good morning, Bill Colley. No, it's not my way, but you have to remember my son pitched baseball, so I am familiar with use and care of a baseball bat.
Yeah, I wanted to start with this listing because they seem to believe that because you've talked occasionally maybe at a gun rally or you got your picture taken with somebody, that somehow you are a highly dangerous, radical element, bigoted, racist, and you're going to be locking people away in concentration camps by the sounds of things.
Yeah, well, none of that is true. Number one, it's just a way to intimidate. It's a way to keep us quiet because I think if you'll notice that everyone on that list believes in the Constitution, believes in freedom, believes in the right of the individual to fulfill the measure of their creation as they see fit. I believe that this is a way to just try to scare us and quiet us, and I don't think it's going to happen.
When you saw this, I mean, one of your first reactions was you told me, you said, I don't want these people showing up at my door because they did this to the Family Research Council a few years ago. And some kook read it, and he went to the Family Research Council offices in Washington, and he went in and he shot a security guard before he was actually downed himself. So there are a lot of nutcases out there. You think about what happened at the congressional baseball practice a few years ago. They're essentially telling their foot soldiers, here are the people you should go after.
Right. And that's the problem that we see now more and more and more. And it's not that it hasn't always been here, but I think that you'll see it accelerate with the way that we're seeing things being done with the presidential election and some other elections around the country. It's not going to be okay anymore to think different than they do. It's never been okay for us to think different than they do, but now they're becoming more aggressive, more active, more militant in their behavior. And, my question to you is when do you think they'll be at my door? Which may or may not happen. I just don't see myself as that big a fish. I think there are bigger, better targets. If you can intimidate, and that was something clear back in the 80s, and I think, Bill, you and I maybe even discussed this on your show when you were in Delaware one time, that to really terrorize, I mean, they usually use big targets like the World Trade Center and, things that are really going to get on national news and stuff like that. But when the harassment hits the homeland and it hits the heartland and, everyday people start to be threatened and not feel safe, that's terrorism on a pretty local level, and I would assume it could be pretty effective. But I just know that since that article was published, I've had 3 different groups form together to offer protection. And I think that's going to happen with any of us that are threatened, and all of us that are threatened. Is you will see the grassroots people, you will see the everyday mom and dad that take their kids to school every morning, go to work and work hard, they're not going to stand for this. They're not going to run scared, because that's not our way. And we refuse to give our country up. We refuse to give our freedoms up, and today is the perfect day to discuss this Veterans Day. Look at the lives that have been sacrificed. Those who have gone to war and never come back. Those who are buried on the beaches of foreign countries. And then, Bill, those who come back and are never the same, who are damaged physically and mentally and in so many ways that we don't even see. And the sacrifices that they have made for this freedom that we have, we will not cower and we will not run in fear. We will have each other's back, and we will be there for one another to preserve the greatness of what this country is and what it stands for.
I do want to mention we're speaking with State Representative Christy Zito, and come January she will be moving across the building to the State Senate, and she is, of course, a target of the Southern Poverty Law Center, along with several of her colleagues in the House and Senate here in Idaho. Heather Scott was mentioned. Mr. Christensen from over in East Idaho was mentioned. A number of you, though, were you were cited. And when I think about how they put this list together, first of all, we should point out you won 3/4 of the vote in your district, and so did those people too. So that tells you that they're implying that the people who support you, the majority, are just as bad. But when they attack, referencing the Family Research Council earlier, if you stand for some traditional values like a traditional morality and the belief that marriage between a man and a woman and some of these things, they come after you, and you're attacked because you have some of those beliefs. Well, those beliefs are held by how many tens of millions, or if not 100 million Americans, right?
Oh, Bill, I believe the majority of Americans still hold those beliefs and hold them to be true. I believe with all my heart that, and I believe that the intimidation that we're seeing is by a very, very few. I believe that for the most part, I'm not exactly sure why the election went the way it did, why it was as close as it was, but you will never convince me that the majority of the people of the United States of America believe in life, they believe in freedom, they believe in liberty, and they believe in those God-given principles that keep us safe and make us who and what we are. I believe this is just a small minority of people that are very loud and very vocal. And part of the reason for that is most of us go to work every day. We work hard to take care of our families. I hear people all the time, they say, well, I don't really have time to be involved in politics. And I say, well, you won't be involved in politics until you think it has personally touched your life, even though every moment of your life it personally touches your life. But those people don't have time to be on Facebook all day. They don't have time to write articles like this and cause trouble like this and insult and do the things they're doing, because they're working hard to pay their taxes, to be good citizens, to live the life that we're supposed to live.
I got to share something with you. When Dorothy Moon was here yesterday, and I told her about this SPLC target list, and she said, well, I'm disappointed I didn't get named to it.
Oh, she's great. She will. She'll get named to it. And if you hear rustling around in the back, 3 of my grandkids just showed up to do their homework and spend the morning with Grandma, so I apologize for.
Well, that's okay.
No, Dorothy will be. There's no question. There are some of us out there that are not afraid to say what we think and say what we feel. Bill, even people who are not legislators and representatives are being targeted from places that are just kind of sad. Like we see our frontline doctors who are standing with a different opinion and what they see as truth with research and study behind them. We have one right here in Idaho, amazing doctor, and she's having her license challenged because she's standing up for truth and for right. And that's what happens when you decide you're not just going to go with the flow and see what we have lost.
I got a couple of messages that have come in. A writer in Kimberly, and the writer wants you to keep up what the writer says is great work. The writer, by the way, I know this is a social worker who jokingly said, "I would not be very good at policing if they ever defunded police." But the writer goes on to say that you should keep up the good work, and writer says you're kicking bottom and taking names, and it said, "God bless you for all you do. Thank you. Stay strong."
Oh, thank you.
And
Thank you. This defunding the police thing is just absolutely crazy. I think it's our sheriffs. Our sheriffs need to be strong. Our sheriffs are our only elected law enforcement officials, and they need this. There's going to come a time where they're the ones who are going to have to make that line in the sand and say, "You do not cross this, and we will not stand for this in our county."
Yeah, well, and of course, you've got three of them that you deal with in your district, and I think about the one out in Owyhee County who's got a very, small detail really when you think about all of the just the territory they have to cover. We don't appreciate all the time how difficult the work can be.
No, we don't. And it's interesting. Not many people know, but every I can't remember if it says man, but I think it says man in the statute. We need to kind of work on this and change a few things. From the ages of 18 to 45, if you are a legal resident of the state of Idaho, you are automatically part of the citizen militia. That's an Idaho code. And I would like to see it not have a top end because, at my age, I think I could still be useful, and I know a lot of other people who could be too. That our sheriffs also need to remember that they could have that at their disposal as well. And there are a lot of people who would be willing to be deputized and serve and help in whatever capacity necessary.
I have another writer that says all you need to do is place a call to Washington Street Pond for security detail.
Oh, thank you.
And then I have this. A writer asks, so how can we help out when you and the other legislators are being threatened like this?
Just by what you're doing, being supportive. Don't let it scare you. Don't succumb to the fear. Don't just keep supporting those legislators who are standing for freedom, who obey their oath of office, who stand for the values that you cherish. I think that's the most important thing. When you posted that, and then I reposted it, and the response that we got, one lady on my post put, "There are 5,000 of us in Mountain Home who have your back," and that just gives you such courage and such strength to know that you're really not alone in this. And sometimes you do feel a little bit like you are, but we're not. We are the silent majority. We are, and that's what you can do to support those people. Just drop a quick note, one or two words. I got your back. We're proud of what you're doing. So you can contribute to a campaign, so that when the time comes, people are in a position to run again. It's going to get tougher and tougher. I think in my race this time, my Democrat opponent is really active, and I think we'll see more and more and more of that in areas like ours that have traditionally been Republican. I think they're just going to work harder and harder and harder to flip those areas. And so it'll be important for candidates to have that funding and to have that support early on so that we can make a difference.
We've got to get to a break, but can you stick around for a few more minutes?
Sure. Yeah, I can.
I have another message that came in from one of your supporters, and I'll share that after the break. We have State Representative Christy Zito with us this morning. She'll soon be serving in the state Senate come January. It's 31. We're at 9:20. She's joining us today because the Southern Poverty Law Center has put out a target list, and she's one of several Idaho legislators who are on it. And these people these lists before have led to violence against conservatives and Christians around the country. We've got more details coming up. Bill Colley with you on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. It's 20 minutes after 9 o'clock. We should point out that if the liberals who are reading this SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center piece, we should point out that if they're actually reading that, they probably don't know their way to Elmore County. They'd get lost as soon as they got off the exit at Hammett, right? So we just, or they'd get into King Hill and say, "Oh no!" They figure that somebody's going to haunt them in that ghost town. 9:23, we're at 33. Bill Colley with you on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. And we're joined this morning by State Representative, and we wanted to point out she's on her way to the State Senate as well, Christy Zito. And she's on that list. She's on that list with several other Idaho state legislators at this point following the election. It's really, the liberals are angry that they see conservatives win and by large numbers in various parts of the country. I'd have to say that, as you pointed out earlier to me off air, and one of your friends dropped me a note here via instant messenger, and it echoed what you were saying, that you got to look back at how the founding fathers were perceived by the British and really a good chunk of their own countrymen at the time as the revolution was going on.
Exactly. You know, if we look, when we look back on history, and we were saying we should get our good friend Helen McCaffrey out there and Kate May to come in and talk about this. She's an expert on the Revolution, George Washington, university professor and lawyer, and on and on and on. But 2/3 of the country at the time didn't support the Revolutionary War, and that's where we come up with the 3% idea. Is that it was seriously only 3% of the people that lived here at the time that supported the Revolutionary War, and look at the difference that they made. And had they run scared, and had they gone with, you know, what most of the people at the time wanted or thought or felt, where would we be today? We wouldn't be the great country and the great nation that we are. So, you know, Glenn says, and other people have said, you know, that, you know, it's a badge of honor to be on that list, and I suppose in a way it really is. And I'm not going to run scared. I'm not going to fear. I'm not going to change anything I do. I represent the voice of the people of this district, and to a great extent, many people across the state, as do the other legislators that are on that list. And we're not going to back down. We're not going to give up. That's not who we are, and that's not what we're made for. And that's not why my grandma stayed in the old country for 7 years as a newlywed, so that, you know, they could eventually come here and live the life and have what we have here today, the freedoms and opportunities that don't exist in many other places in the world. And more than once, Bill, when we've been at these rallies and stuff, I've had people who have moved here from other countries come up to me and they say, we came here to enjoy the freedoms that America represents and that are available here. And they said, if this country fails, there's no place else to go.
True.
This is it. This
True.
is the last stand.
We don't have a lot of time.
And we're not going to give it up.
We don't have a lot of time left, but we've got a caller. Caller, you're on the air with State Representative Christy Zito. You got to make it quick. Go ahead.
Okay. It seems like we're still kind of playing politics as usual generally in this country. Kind of pinging off what Bill said a few minutes ago. We're doing political warfare, or a politics as usual, and it seems like the other side's kind of doing this actual asymmetric warfare. How do we challenge that? How do we meet that? You know, that's my question.
Good question.
That is a good question. In my mind, we don't back down. We don't change. We don't compromise. We have to. The thing that's interesting about the way this all goes down is we have become so steeped, and I know we're short on time, so I'll try to be brief, but we've become so steeped in the two-party politics policies that we think if someone's a Republican, then they're just automatically a good guy. And what we have to really do is, as a country and a nation and as voters, we need to really, really look at the voting records of the people that we elect, and we need to make sure that even though they're a Republican or a Democrat or a Constitutionalist or whatever their party is, we need to make sure that they're going to vote and support the Constitution. We need to make sure that they uphold that oath of office, and that's a good start. Not only in the state level, but you need to look at your county commissioners, you need to look at your city council members. If you guys elect a dog catcher, you need to make sure that that dog catcher is obeying their oath of office to uphold, defend, and protect the Constitution of the United States. Because you can say, oh, it was a document that was written 250 years ago or however many, but that is the foundation and the rock-solid foundation of our country and what we believe and what we stand for. And if you're not willing to stand for it, and nowhere in the Constitution does it say that your safety is guaranteed. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that it's the government's job to look out for your health or provide you a living. It allows for your pursuit of happiness. It allows, well, the rights that we all know that are delineated in the Bill of Rights and so forth in the Constitution. We're short on time. I won't go into all of that. But you need to really look at what you're asking government to do and what you will not allow government to do, because that's just as important, both sides. And we need to stand for that and make sure that those that we allow to act in our stead, which are our elected officials, that they would not do anything to or for us that you would not allow your next door neighbor to do to or for you.
Got to thank you for your time on short notice today.
Anytime, Bill. I've told you before, I'm here for you, but I got your back.
Well, hey, thank you. We'll talk soon.
All right, absolutely. Thank you, Bill. You have a beautiful day, and thank you again, everyone out there, for allowing me the great privilege to represent you.
Excellent. State Representative Christy Zito, and again, as we mentioned earlier, soon to be moving over to the state Senate come January, where she'll be filling the seat that was held by the retiring Burt Brackett. Same district, however, as far as that goes. And she was with us because she and several of her colleagues have been put on a target list by the Southern Poverty Law Center. Some of these previous lists have actually resulted in angry leftists. In fact, at the Family Research Council in Washington, D.C., an angry leftist, after reading this list, burst in, shot a security guard before he himself was dropped. So this is serious business. We're at 32. It's 9:30. Bill Colley with you on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and NewsRadio1310.com.